Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Dani, and I'm a part of the Wilderness Group's trade partnership team based out of the Scotland office.
So we'll be starting off with a quick intro video about the Wilderness Group.
Thank you so much for joining us today as we discuss the Wilderness Group and the services that we offer. So to give you an overview, the Wilderness Group is a UK and Ireland-based specialist DMC and tour operator, operating both scheduled departures and custom luxury trips, which focus on experiential and soft active adventure across England, Ireland, Wales, and Scotland. I'll start off by introducing myself. As you can probably tell by my accent, I'm not originally from the UK or Ireland. So I grew up in Canada and I traveled to the UK about 10 years ago, and I just loved it over here. I was amazed by the sheer beauty and scale and history of the UK. I fell in love with the sea and the mountains, the culture of hill walking and sitting in a pub after a long walk, having to step over a dog that sprawled in front of a cozy fire. And I couldn't get enough of walking along the white sand beaches in search of rocks and shells for my never-ending collections, or watching the lambs in springtime as they bounced through the meadows. The UK, specifically Scotland for me, just felt like home, so I decided to make the move permanent. During my time here, I've been fortunate enough to have lived in England, Wales, and Scotland, as well as travelled extensively through Ireland, so I feel I'm quite well qualified to speak to you today regarding what draws guests to the UK and Ireland. So with offices in Scotland, England, and Ireland, our expertise really does cover the whole of the UK and Ireland. The Wilderness Scotland office started in 2001, and it's now located in Aviemore. The Ireland office was started in 2013, and it's located in Sligo on the west coast of Ireland. And the England office was started in 2020, and it's located outside of Kendal near the Lake District. Our offices aren't located in major cities. We are local to the areas that your guests are traveling in, and from that we've been able to establish such great connections and relationships with our suppliers because we are local to them. So as I previously mentioned, the Wilderness Group is both a DMC and tour operator. So in addition to offering our custom luxury trips, we also offer small group departures, both for our own brand as well as white label, and these departures are really focused on active adventure. So if you did have guests who are looking to book a holiday, but they would prefer a group trip over something custom, our small group departures range from 8 to 12 people max, with a guide to guest ratio of 1 to 8. These fixed departures are geared more towards active travel, for example, walking in Ireland, e-biking in the Cotswolds, or sea kayaking over Scotland's west coast. And our various departures come in a variety of different grading depending on a guest's fitness levels. We're also able to provide agent's commission on most of our scheduled departures, so it's something to keep in mind for future guests. Something which is also unique to us as a DMC is we own all of our own stores, vehicles, and equipment, which really allows us to ensure the quality and safety of all of our gear. The Wilderness Group is also an industry-leading DMC with our commitment to sustainable tourism. We support a number of conservation projects in the communities that we operate in, and we are currently working to reduce our emissions by 90% and to becoming a true net zero company by 2030. So moving to our agent custom trips, which will be the main focus of today, our custom trips feature 4 to 5 star luxury accommodation throughout, and the guest experience would be fully facilitated by their guide, who would act as their driver, host, activity leader, and 24-hour in-country support. So this is a quick overview of our specialities as a luxury DMC and the areas that we'll be focusing on today. To give you an idea of our clientele, our average guest age is approximately 50 plus, though we do often get family and multi-generational bookings as well. So these trips are geared towards luxury, experiential, and soft active adventure, with the focus of our experiential activities being to provide immersive, authentic, and meaningful experiences for guests, really giving them that opportunity to travel like a local and to have those ungoogleable or insider experiences, as we like to call them. So some examples would be, here we have Bill from his smoke Smokehouse in Suffolk, where guests can learn about the history of the smokehouse, take a private tour of it with Bill, and then sample some of the products. Another fun experience for guests is touring around London in vintage Mini Coopers. So guests would be driven around in a bespoke tour of London in these vintage cars with local London guides dressed in early 20th century garb. So think kind of Peaky Blinders style clothing. And it really gives guests that truly kind of authentic and unique experience. Stargazing is another great activity for guests. So many of the areas that we visit are dark sky regions, and our guides can really bring astronomy to life. So for example, the Perseid meteor shower is visible throughout the UK and Ireland in August, and many of our guests get to enjoy stargazing during that time. Another great activity is foraging. So we have contacts with a number of different foragers all over the UK and Ireland. So this can be facilitated into any region that your guests are traveling. Foraging is a great activity as it's a great way to connect with the local landscape, as well as being very accessible for guests of all physical abilities, as it can be done along beaches or in woodlands. It is a great opportunity to connect with genuine locals. Here we have some coastal foraging where guests can search through various flora and fauna before having a cooking demonstration and tasting, and guests can really learn a lot about history and how the locals would have survived in these areas over the centuries. I recently had the opportunity to join a forager and cooking demonstration in the Scottish Highlands. It was an absolutely fantastic opportunity where we wandered through farmland and woodland for nearly 2 hours, covering less than a mile of terrain and learning about a plethora of plant life and how it could be incorporated into the daily lives of locals, and how we could now use these items in modern dishes. We were even surprised in the woods with a cocktail making demonstration using some of the items that we'd foraged, and then we sat around a wood fire in a teepee sampling freshly prepared dishes and sipping from our cocktails. It really was a truly memorable experience. And we can't forget adventures on the water, as we are island nations. The UK and Ireland have some of the best waters in the world for seeing marine life. Animals such as minke whale, dolphins, puffins, seals, orcas, or even basking sharks. So this image here is a basking shark, which is the second largest fish in the world after the whale shark, and it can grow to be up to nearly 8 meters or 26 feet long, and it eats exclusively plankton, so they're very safe to swim with. So we actually partner with a local marine biologist who can charter boats to take you out to swim with these gentle giants. Swimming with these creatures would absolutely be a memorable experience for any guest. We're also able to seamlessly combine immersive experiences with adventure activities. Some of our most popular activities include walking or hiking and e-biking, though we can facilitate things like wild swimming, road cycling, sea kayaking, or even sailing. An example might be that your guest starts their morning with a refreshing wild swim in a local lake, followed by a relaxing lakeside sauna experience, then spending the afternoon wandering around charming local villages before heading up to a rustic hideaway in a local estate for a private cooking demonstration and enjoying being serenaded by a local musician. Another example might be a tour of a historical castle surrounded by manicured woodlands with an expert local guide, and then they would be joined in a private gin making class in the castle, followed by a cocktail tasting. And our custom trip designers really work with agents to create that most memorable and exclusive and VIP guest experience to allow your guests the trip of a lifetime, with every minute detail and guest interest being thought of. We really pride ourselves on the excellence of our guides, as they really enhance a guest experience from great to exceptional. All of our custom trips are fully guided, with our guides acting as I said before, a host, driver, and activity leader throughout the trip. To give you an idea of who our guides are, the average guide age is approximately 48, and most have come into guiding organically from other careers. We have former teachers and university professors, former military personnel, GPs, bankers, journalists, athletes, and they all share a common passion for their home and want to share it with others. We have very rigorous training requirements for our guides, so they would all be fully qualified in their respective fields, whether that be blue badge, mountaineering, biking, and then they would receive further training through wilderness through our guide training program to enable them to facilitate storytelling, wine tastings, whiskey tastings, that sort of idea. We also have an extensive selection process to handpick the right guide to each trip, so that we're matching guides that have a specific knowledge or interest that your clients are looking for in their trip. And our guides really curate the experience and pace of the trip to your guests' requirements, which would be discussed to them at the start of their trip. So here we have some images of our guides with their guests. So Tim is one of our most senior guides, and he's discussing a walking route with some of his guests for the next day. And every trip has what we like to call our surprise and delight moment. And these are catered for across all of our trips. And this is an opportunity for our guides to really go above and beyond and to create that most memorable guest experience. So for example, one of our guests had a profound desire to reconnect with her roots, so we designed an extraordinary experience that took her deep into her family history. So the guest was able to visit with a genealogist at the Scottish National Archives to trace her lineage, and it was discovered that there was an abandoned crofting village on the Isle of Mull where her ancestors had lived for nearly 800 years. Reaching the site wasn't easy, as there were no roads and the rugged terrain required challenging trekking. So our guide went above and beyond in the field and was able to connect with the local farmer to gain special access to the land. And our expert guide ensured that the journey was as seamless as possible. When the client finally reached the village ruins, the emotional impact was immediate. Standing among the ancient stones her ancestors had once touched, she felt a powerful connection to her past. The moment was so deeply moving that she was actually brought to tears, overwhelmed by this tangible link to her heritage. And this experience really transcends any ordinary tour. It became a transformative pilgrimage that allowed her to walk in the footsteps of her forebears, leaving her with a profound sense of belonging and gratitude. We really pride ourselves on taking guests away from traditional tourist attractions and taking them off the beaten path to connect with local characters, to give them that insight and flavor for the places that they visit. With the Wilderness Group, we have an entire array of local characters across all of our regions we operate in and are able to facilitate a variety of guest interests. So for example, we have sheepdog demonstrations. So in this case, guests would meet with Richard and have a private demonstration of him working his dogs, where guests would then be invited into his house for a cup of tea and a chat, which really makes that whole experience so special and welcoming, especially being welcomed into someone's home. We have private chefs. So cooking classes would be located in the chef's home, where you would learn about her travels and cooking inspiration while also learning to cook some fabulous food. So here we have an oyster farmer. So guests would be able to meet David to harvest oysters together and then join him for a cooking demonstration and tasting, often followed by a Guinness or two in the local pub to hear about his stories. We also have our master potter, so guests would be able to meet Graham, and he creates ceramic replicas of anything from the Paleolithic to Roman to medieval pottery using period accurate tools and techniques. He's a really interesting fellow with a lot of historical knowledge. Again, we have our forager, so guests would be able to meet Mitch and learn about the local flora and fauna. Storytellers, we have numerous connections throughout the UK and Ireland too. They bring myths and legends to life and are often a great evening or rainy day activity, and they really can specialise into particular regions. So in Scotland we might focus more on the folklore and fairies. In England the focus might be on say King Arthur and Shakespeare, and in Ireland the focus might be on Celtic myths and legends. And we have connections to a variety of other local characters such as gillies, naturalists, historians, farmers, chocolatiers, or even sommeliers. Food has come a long way in the UK and Ireland beyond the humble fish and chips, and we're really eager to share these fabulous dining experiences with our guests. A foodie experience in London is a tour through Borough Market, so famed for its large variety of vendors from gourmet to street food and kind of everything in between. So guests would be guided through the market with a cordon bleu chef who would then take them to a variety of stalls and give them that real insider's experience. One of our guest favorites is a visit to a stall that does a deconstructed apple crumble, which is a delicious and great fun for both adults and kids. Much of the focus in the UK and Ireland is on fresh, local and seasonal produce with a variety of regions that we visit, so guests are really spoiled for choice. Outdoor dining experiences are becoming increasingly popular for guests and are such a memorable experiences we can create for them. So this luxury picnic was awaiting guests as a surprise. So they were on a guided walk and were met with this lovely picnic to enjoy along the banks of a river. Again, a private cooking class where guests would have an unforgettable experience where they would learn to make dishes that are usually outside of their remit. And here we also have some guests sampling some local fresh seafood on a beach. Again, a very memorable dining experience. The UK and Ireland also boast a number of Michelin star restaurants and fine dining venues, which again focus on that local and seasonal produce. And we can't leave out whiskey when we're talking about Scotland and Ireland. We're able to arrange private tours of various distilleries with distillery masters and really focus on that exclusive and closed door experience. And no tour would be complete without a tasting. So on this private experience, guests were given an exclusive tour of the distillery, including into the warehouse where the casks are stored, and they were actually able to sample directly from an unreleased cask. This was then followed up by a bespoke tasting in the distillery's liquid library, where guests could choose which exclusive bottle they would like to sample from based on their specific preferences. Becoming increasingly popular are vineyards, especially in the south of England. So we can arrange private tours of the vineyards and exclusive tastings. I was actually at one earlier this summer, and it was a lovely experience sitting in the sun, sipping my wine, overlooking the vineyards. It was a stunning location and the wine was excellent. It's also conveniently located, making it the perfect day trip from London or an easy addition to any London itinerary. Cultural and historical connections are a wide range of activities that further help to connect our guests with the regions that we travel in. So for example, a custom kilt fitting. So this is Howie. He is a fourth generation kilt designer and he's often labeled the celebrity kilt maker. So guests would have a tailor-made fitting and then the kilt would be shipped to them at a later date. He's also famously said that he doesn't own any trousers, so another really fun character for guests to meet. For clients with that interest in fashion and design, with our connections, we're able to create similar experiences in Ireland and England as well. So Donegal has a rich weaving tradition and London obviously has Savile Row. So for both men's and women's fashion, we can create those personal shopping experiences for your guests. The Skellig Islands, which are a well-preserved early Christian monastery. Some of you might recognize them as having been more recently featured in some of the Star Wars films. These stone structures are a UNESCO World Heritage site, and access can often be limited, but we're able to arrange private charter boats to take guests to the islands and to visit the site. It's also a fabulous place to see large puffin colonies in the summer months. Traditional music is such a fun experience for guests, whether it's in a pub or private setting, and a great way to really immerse yourself in the local culture. We can arrange for local musicians, bagpipers, and dancers to perform for guests, and even arrange a private ceilidh if guests had wished. For those of you that don't know, a ceilidh is a social event with traditional music and dancing. London is also an area of expertise for wilderness, where we work with a variety of blue badge guides to take guests off the beaten path and really give them that authentic insider's London experience. Guests could immerse themselves in history, culture, fashion, food experiences, or pop culture, all in one convenient location. So with our expert local guide, guests could explore, say, antique markets, vintage shops, hidden historical gems of the city. They could have a private tour of the Churchill War Museums, travel in style like James Bond on a private chartered boat along the Thames River, passing all the iconic London monuments. We are able to facilitate private tours of the Globe Theatre, which is a replica of Shakespeare's theatre. We can accommodate private Hamleys pre-opening experiences, a private pod in the London Eye, private shopping stylist experiences. Royal and historical experiences are becoming increasingly popular, especially with shows like Downton Abbey, The Crown, Bridgerton, Outlander, featuring historical houses and castles. So some of the experiences that we could facilitate are private tours of the Tower of London with a champagne reception and even private viewings of the crown jewels. We've also had guests who've had afternoon tea with a duchess and member of the royal family. And then if guests did have specific interests, we're able to arrange for specialists like historians, marine biologists, or even archaeologists to provide further specific information on their area of interests. Wildlife in the UK and Ireland is also a huge draw. In addition to the previously mentioned marine life, the mainland is also a fabulous place for seeing a variety of creatures. So whether it's a private experience with a Highland cow, a private charter on a rib to see a local puffin colony or golden eagles, or exploring various woodlands in search of red squirrels or stags, we can create those memorable moments that allow guests that true insider experience. As a specialist DMC, we have established excellent connections with luxury 4- and 5-star hotels, boutique hotels, virtuoso preferred properties, historical manor houses, and even exclusive use castles. And we have a variety of partner hotels in London. So for example, Brown's, the Mandarin Oriental, 11 Cadogan Gardens, just to name a few of those classic London hotels. So we partner with characterful local accommodation that reflects the region the guests are in, favouring small group travel over large corporate chains. In England, we partner with hotels such as the Royal Crescent in Bath, Calcott Manor in the Cotswolds, Grantley Hall in Yorkshire, or the Gilpin Hotel in the Lake District. In Ireland, we work with places such as the Grand Manor House Ballyfin, the Merrion in Dublin, and Cashel Palace, again, just to name a few. And in Scotland, we work with the Fife Arms in Braemar, the Balmoral in Edinburgh, and Inverlochy Castle on the west coast. We also work with a number of exclusive use manor houses and castles, which are the ideal location for more exclusive luxury trips or even multi-generational bookings. And as we are a Virtuoso preferred partner, guests would also receive Virtuoso amenities when booking a Virtuoso hotel. That concludes our discussion for today, and I hope that we've provided you with some more information on the Wilderness Group and the types of experiences that we can offer your guests. I've linked our contact details below if you would like to reach out for any further information. Thanks and have a great day.